This failed Star Trek movie should have been even better than First Contact. When it comes to Star Trek movies, First Contact often sits at the top of fans' lists. It's sleek, thrilling, emotionally grounded, and features one of the franchise's best villains, the Borg Queen. But what if I told you that one of the franchise's biggest failures was originally positioned to surpass even First Contact? A film that had all the makings of a masterpiece, an ambitious concept, legacy characters, moral conflict, and the potential to redefine what Star Trek on the big screen could be, yet stumbled so badly that it nearly killed the movie series for years. That movie was Star Trek: Insurrection 1998. To many, Insurrection is remembered as a middling entry sandwiched between the fan-favorite First Contact and the misfire Nemesis. But buried within its disappointing execution is a concept that, if handled differently, could have made it one of the greatest Star Trek films ever made, a philosophical epic about ethics, progress, and the meaning of humanity. Let's look at how Insurrection failed, and why it should have been even better than First Contact. The setup that promised greatness. After First Contact's huge success in 1996, Paramount wanted to keep the momentum going. The Next Generation crew had proven they could carry a blockbuster, and fans were eager for another cinematic adventure. Jonathan Frakes, who had directed First Contact with remarkable skill, returned to the director's chair, and screenwriter Michael Piller, one of the most respected TNG writers, penned the script. Everything looked perfect on paper. The concept was classic Star Trek. The Enterprise crew discovers that the Federation is secretly planning to relocate an isolated colony of 600 people to exploit their planet's rejuvenating properties. The moral dilemma, progress versus ethics, the collective good versus individual rights, had Roddenberry's spirit written all over it. It was supposed to be Star Trek's version of Apocalypse Now, a cerebral exploration of moral decay within Starfleet itself, wrapped in a beautiful but tragic frontier adventure. Early versions of the story promised a much darker tone, delving into questions about immortality, corruption, and rebellion. In short, it could have been Trek's most thought-provoking movie since The Undiscovered Country. But what audiences got was something far tamer: the First Contact problem. First Contact worked because it struck a perfect balance between action and philosophy. It had explosive set pieces, yes, but it also explored the trauma of Captain Picard's assimilation, humanity's first steps into the stars, and the cost of revenge. It was dark, emotional, and full of cinematic energy. Insurrection, by contrast, felt like a two-part TNG episode stretched into a feature film. While First Contact showed Starfleet at its boldest, Insurrection showed it at its blandest. The film opened with promise. The reveal of the idyllic Baku planet and the secret Federation surveillance mission was mysterious and atmospheric. But soon, the story deflated into a mid-tier adventure where the stakes felt abstract, the tone uneven, and the villains underwhelming. Where First Contact made audiences feel every blow Picard delivered against the Borg, Insurrection asked viewers to care about a planet of peaceful farmers who barely seemed affected by their own plight. The emotional connection wasn't there, and that's where the movie lost its chance at greatness, what it could have been: a moral tragedy. The original pitch for Insurrection was far more complex and far more daring. Michael Piller initially envisioned a story where Picard would have to confront his own moral boundaries. Early drafts had Starfleet's involvement in the relocation as far murkier, with the Federation genuinely believing that harvesting the Baku planet's regenerative radiation could save billions of lives. Imagine that version. Picard isn't just rebelling against corrupt admirals, he's rebelling against reason itself. The Federation's plan wouldn't be obviously evil. It would be tragically justifiable. That moral gray area could have forced Picard to question his loyalty, his principles, and even his sense of command. In other words, the film could have turned Star Trek's optimism on its head, not to betray it, but to test its limits. That kind of story had the potential to challenge audiences the same way The Wrath of Khan or The Undiscovered Country did. Instead of a simple Federation equal good, villains equal bad dichotomy, Insurrection could have made everyone a little bit right and a little bit wrong. Even the Sona, who ended up as generic villains with loose motivations, could have been tragic figures: exiled Baku who'd chosen technology and progress over purity, representing the Federation's own moral drift. That mirroring could have turned them into reflections of Picard himself. The lost character arcs. One of the biggest missed opportunities in Insurrection lies with its characters. First Contact gave nearly every major player a strong emotional thread. Picard's trauma, Data's temptation to be human, Worf's warrior pride, and even Lily's outsider perspective. In Insurrection, those arcs evaporate. Picard's romance with Onage, while tender an idea, lacks chemistry or purpose. It never pushes him emotionally the way Lily or even the Borg Queen did. Instead of revealing new sides to him, it softens him into a kind of idyllic pastoral rebel, more monk than captain. Data's subplot, befriending a child and learning about fun, feels like a regression after First Contact's profound exploration of identity and temptation. The others, Riker, Troi, Geordi, mostly exist to fill screen time. The emotional core of the Enterprise D family, one of TNG's great strengths, is lost in the shuffle. The script needed personal stakes, not just ethical ones. Imagine if the story had tied those threads together, Data questioning his own immortality, Riker doubting Starfleet's orders, Geordi discovering a way to restore his vision permanently, but at the cost of the Baku's lives. Suddenly, the film would have been full of difficult choices and real emotional gravity, the tone that killed it. Perhaps the biggest reason Insurrection failed to surpass First Contact was its indecisive tone. The creative team wanted to make the movie lighter after the dark Borg action of the previous film, but that decision stripped Insurrection of its power. The humor, smooth as an android's bottom jokes, Riker and Troy's bubble bath rekindling, felt awkwardly placed amid a story about displacement and moral rebellion. It was the next generation, vacation episode, not the cinematic epic fans were expecting. Even the cinematography and production design reflected the tonal confusion. First Contact's sharp, moody visuals made the Enterprise E feel imposing and cinematic. Insurrection, with its bright daylight and gentle music, looked more like a Star Trek TV special than a movie. That tonal softness undermined the film's potential as a moral thriller. The missed masterpiece. If Insurrection had leaned into its original darkness, if it had trusted its audience to handle moral ambiguity, it could have been extraordinary. A version of the story where Picard genuinely believes the Federation might be right would have given Patrick Stewart the chance to deliver another powerhouse performance on par with his breakdown in First Contact. Instead, the movie played it safe. It wanted to please everyone, action fans, families, longtime Trekkies, and ended up satisfying no one fully. Yet, you can still see flashes of what it could have been. The quiet scenes of reflection on mortality, the questions about moral authority, the subtle commentary on technology versus nature. Those are all Trek at its core, but they're buried under a tone that never commits, a film afraid of its own brilliance. Why it should have been better than First Contact? When you look at the ingredients, Insurrection had everything it needed to surpass First Contact. A thoughtful, socially relevant premise. A seasoned creative team that had just delivered a hit. A chance to explore the Federation's darker side in a way no film had before. And the perfect character, Picard, to lead that moral revolution. Where First Contact was about survival and revenge, Insurrection could have been about morality and sacrifice, themes that resonate even deeper. It could have shown that even the Federation, the ultimate utopia, isn't immune to corruption.